The thing about a lot of films about war is that the directors tend to hijack them, because every film director that I've ever come across wants to make a war movie, and they want to get the hardware and they want to do the explosions and they want to do all the rest of it. So when you're actually producing a film that depicts war, the producer's job is really to hold to what the film's meant to be about, and at its heart, Atonement is a literary conceit about a little girl who tells a lie, and the devastating effect that has on those around her. And that you need to make sure that the war is only being used to support that. And in fact, the strongest image in Atonement came about, the war image came about because of a budgetary consideration, is that the director got sort of seduced by the whole idea of redoing the Second World War, as it were. And we said, listen, you can't do that. And he said, well, can I use all of the resources that we've got and spend them in a day? And that's where the big shot that is at the heart of the war depicted in Atonement came from. So it's an interesting story, that one. The challenging thing is to ensure that the emotion of whatever the film is that you're trying to make is still at the problem is there's just so much stuff in a war film, because there's guns, there's cars, there's tanks, there's planes, there's people, there's blood, there's this, there's that. And it's very easy for that to crush whatever you're trying to make the movie about. So the producers, the real challenge is to make sure that the emotion that you're going for, whatever that is at the front and center of whatever you're doing. And one of the things that I was thinking about this the other day is because you can never really lay on a war, as it were. It's never going to actually feel like that. So an interpretation of it is really important, and quite often the single shot is a really interesting way of doing it. And if you look at Private Ryan, you look at Paths of Glory, you look at actually images in The Deer Hunter, it's quite often where everything's contained inside a single shot, that there's some sort of pressure that takes place there. So it's about interpreting, like anything. And in many ways, because you're not really going to war, it's like a lot of cinema, it's magic realism, and it's how do you go about doing that? Yeah, I think you need to, it's like any movie, you need to get, especially when it's based on real events, is you can never totally recreate real events, but what you're aiming for is to get the tone of it absolutely right. And if you get the tone of it absolutely right, on the whole, people who've been associated with those events will forgive you. Interestingly, because of what's going on in the world, it's much more interesting to make films about Brexit or about Trump, to be quite honest. I think the real conflict zone is actually in civilian life rather than military life in the next 4 or 5 years, and I think you're going to see I think you're going to see some very interesting creative projects coming out of what's going on at the moment.